But obviously, if Europe fires back by putting steep tariffs on goods that are made in America, that can cause real economic damage here because, say, you work at a factory that makes motorcycles, but Europe imposes steep tariffs. Well, the motorcycles that you make have just become less competitive. They've become less affordable overseas. And so maybe the factory doesn't need you to work as many hours. Maybe they're going to cut your wages. They might have to lay off some workers. And so that's how we kind of shift the conversation from just talking about what's the price impact to how does this actually slow down growth and potentially kill jobs. And that's why this is such a problem when you think about tariffs, because you can easily get into an escalatory cycle that's really hard to get out of, where one country threatens to put tariffs on, the other country promises to respond. And you know that if Europe responds aggressively, then President Trump is going to threaten to go even higher with tariffs. And then what is Europe going to do at that point? So it really does become very messy, and it just adds so much uncertainty and causes a lot of damage to the economy. And so that's why I think investors are hoping that Liberation Day won't be quite as bad as feared, because that would give some greater clarity and some greater certainty and sort of maybe take the temperature down a bit. If you see one of these more aggressive responses and announcements from the White House tomorrow, that's not going to sit well with investors at all. Christina?
No. Where does it end? And ahead of Liberation Day, I mean, US stocks have dropped sharply as investors try to make sense of Trump's tariff plan, if indeed there is one. We've got the stock market due to open in roughly 20 minutes or so. What are you watching for today in the global markets?
Yeah, well, look, we saw the market have a pretty turbulent day yesterday. The Dow swung in about 1,000-point range, ended near the highest levels of the day, but you see U.S. stock futures, they're pointing to a slightly lower open this morning. That's not surprising, right? Anytime investors have a lot of questions about a policy announcement, they're likely to sell first and ask questions later. The market, the U.S. market, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, they both suffered their worst quarter since 2022. And a lot of that, again, was driven by worries about the trade war, about uncertainty around policy. And there's also just growing concern about these yellow lights that are flashing in the U.S. economy.